Hey, there we go. Courtney's learning how to use a laptop on this episode of Live at the Hive, episode 25.
I can't go.
I can't make it work. Can't make it work.
I'm showing my age. Okay.
Are you trying to go back?
I'm just trying to see it from the comment view, like so I could.
The comments will pop up down there, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
One tab up.
Cool.
Yep. They should pop up.
I gave my iPad mini to my mom, so I was like, I got a desktop, I've got a laptop, I don't need another third computer, and my phone.
Yeah.
Like
on the leading edge of digital technology.
My phone and my laptop never leave my side, but you know, that's enough.
Yeah. Not so much on the tablets. So, welcome to Live at the Hive, episode 25. That's a super special effect happening right now.
Ooh.
So I'm Dan Nedelko and
Courtney Castle
and Katie Moa.
And today we are talking all things leads things.
Leads and advertising and things like that, as we have our traffic manager with us today to give us the inside scoop on how to generate leads. And specifically we're going to talk a bit more about Facebook and LinkedIn and some specific ad formats in our What's Working segment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one of the things, like obviously we predicate a lot of our programs are based on performance and lead generation. And so specifically, I think the one thing we wanted to dive in today a little bit further was the lead gen formats that exist on LinkedIn and Facebook. And I'm just going to flip over here because I have it somewhere here.
Hey, Aaron and Hannah, our classic, our cheerleaders, giving us a shout out there. Thanks for tuning in.
There we go.
But yeah, we're going to kick things over to Katie for getting us started with what's working this week.
Yeah.
So
that's what's up on the screen right now.
So we're talking about like lead gen forms here. So LinkedIn and Facebook both have these types of forms, and they're really, really great because they remove the barrier to entry. It's usually about like one click or one little super simple form fill out. Can't talk today. And then you get that lead right away into your CRM. They're super easy to use. You don't need to have a landing page. You just need usually just one kind of like header image and just the ad, and then you're good to go. So they're super easy for anyone to kind of set up.
And what's kind of like maybe just the difference for people between a regular, if we're talking about Facebook specifically as the example, like what's the difference between a regular ad and a lead gen form?
So a regular ad, you'll have the ad sitting there on your screen, and you'll go out to usually a separate page. You go out to a landing page, you go out to a page on your site. While for the Facebook lead gen form, and same for the LinkedIn forms, those forms actually they keep you within the platform, and you fill out. For Facebook Sense, you have to actually fill out the form, and you choose the questions that you need them to fill out. For LinkedIn, it actually kind of auto-fills it for you and fills out all of their relevant information. The one awesome thing about LinkedIn is the fact that people usually keep their stuff up to date. It makes it even easier for people to fill out those forms and less barrier to entry. But it's super easy to just get people into your CRM, into, say, contests or any kind of like option that you're trying to get them to fill out or fill out for an asset. Just trying to make it as easy as possible for people.
Yeah, I think one of the big things that we talk a lot about and that you see with all digital marketing campaigns is the more you can reduce the friction to getting that lead, and then also the quality of that lead. So the nice thing with Facebook and with LinkedIn is you typically have very well qualified information. People will keep up their LinkedIn profiles, they use it to communicate, so you know that you're getting a good quality of lead. And sometimes, the harsh reality is you'll get, on landing pages, you'll get, dummy emails that people will sometimes use. You'll get, non-business emails, which can always be a challenge if you're doing B2B. So you get that high quality lead, which is really great. And what you'll be able to see just on the example, so the lead gen forms on LinkedIn are a little bit different than Facebook. That's what Katie was just saying. You can see there that in their example, you can add as many different fields as you might want. So especially on B2B, it's really fantastic. And
especially the fact that it autofills, you are more likely to get more information on people. You can put more fields in, and it's just autofilled for them. So it removes that entire barrier to entry, and you can actually get way more information out of that lead gen form than you would. Say if you're doing just a regular like Google search ad that was leading to a landing page, you had to fill out like 6 or 7 different fields. It's already done for them, so it's really easy for them to do.
Yeah, totally.
For sure.
The other thing too is that on Facebook, it's actually just one click and a confirmation. So with Facebook, all that you get is you get the email, and you get the, I believe you get the first and last name. No, you get.
You can actually choose to make custom fields as well.
Right.
They don't usually recommend that as much because they can't autofill them. But it works either way. You can put kind of whatever you want in there.
Yeah. I think the other thing that's pretty important too is that how you target your leads, working in conjunction with the lead gen ad. So if you have a custom audience and create a lookalike, or a very highly targeted intent and affinity groups. So LinkedIn especially, for example, if you're in B2B and you're looking to chase a specific company, you can target individuals within that company at a certain level for your lead gen. I think the other thing we could talk about as well that's really important is what are you going to give them? What are you going to sign up for?
Yeah, and that's the only kind of caveat that I would have to the LinkedIn lead gen ads and the Facebook format. It's a great format depending on like what your end goal for the user is. Like Katie mentioned earlier, like if you're running a Facebook like giveaway kind of a contest, that's perfect because there's not really much qualification needed on their side. They get what a giveaway is, they see the prize right up front, they enter their email, they're done. And it's really the key to like what Dan said earlier is friction. How much friction? How much are you asking of people? Like people are inherently lazy and they inherently want things to be as simple as possible. So if you have like a 10-step process to get a free guide or to enter a contest, like what is the likelihood that person's just going to close the window?
Yeah.
So.
And when you're talking about B2B, I think you want to give away something of high value to that individual to incite them to act. That's a really important part of that process. So really think about the content you're trying to give them and make it valuable to those individuals that you're targeting highly. So if you know you're targeting people in finance, create content that's going to be of value to them to incite them because you've got that targeting so you'll know more specifically, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Hey Paige, thanks for tuning in from D2L.
Hey Paige, come on over. Start knocking on the door.
Yeah,
have a drop in.
You got to come and do a little cameo on the live.
There we go.
We'll give you a beer or something.
Yeah, there we go. Tim Quack.
What's up, Tim?
Tim, Furiously Tim, my old buddy. We used to street race on, it was a long time ago. We went on a pub crawl one time many years ago in Vancouver, and about, I don't know, halfway through, we had a barefooted street race through, where was that, Tim? I can't remember.
Okay, I was thinking like cars, and I'm
no,
like,
no,
what's
no.
this
I was
fast in the
thinking,
Furious life?
I mean a foot street race through, I can't remember where we were. We was at some seedy pub.
Good, some classy, very classy establishment.
Super classy. The other thing about Facebook lead gen ads to keep in mind as well is you can deliver those via in-mail to specific individuals as well. So that can be a really nice way to generate that new lead. So if you're trying to get to more people in the same company.
Sorry, Tim. Tim said he whooped you.
I had bare feet. You didn't whoop me. I'm gonna start saying stuff. This is gonna turn into it was on Canada Day, and we also in Gastown. That's right. I think I stepped on like a used needle or something. Yeah, well, it wasn't the nicest part of town.
All right.
Vancouver.
All right.
We also sang "You've Lost That Love and Feeling," Tim, if you remember that. I have that video.
We'll post the link.
We did it Top Gun styles. We did it Top Gun styles.
Good stuff.
All right, so getting right back on track to professional B2B lead generation here. So yeah, using in-mail, you can target individuals at a company or at a certain job level, whether you're looking for a director of marketing, a CMO, a CFO, it doesn't really matter. But you can also use it properly to generate qualified leads. And the best thing about these lead gen ads is there's just a one-to-one cause and effect. They're very, very effective because you're going to have clients. We know we have clients, and it's all about the leads. I need more leads. I want better leads. I need more qualified leads. I need to fill my pipeline. This achieves those goals. So
Yeah, and if you have never tested out the format, but you are running ads on LinkedIn and Facebook, definitely suggest a pilot test is what we call it. So if you are currently seeing success with, just a regular display ad or a search ad type, don't abandon it. Just take a little test. Perhaps, $100, $200 for a short time frame, and just compare the performance. Use the same creative, the same copy, don't change the whole thing entirely, and just test the formats and see. In some instances, a squeeze page or directing someone to another page afterwards, like a separate destination, will help and qualify them a little more and give them a bit more information. So I've seen it actually go either way, really depending on what your product is, what your industry is, and what it is you're actually offering people. I've seen both perform very well. It really depends on you.
Right. It's not to say that other types of landing pages and campaigns don't work. In the specific case of generating B2B leads, and if you're trying to build your email list, your qualified lead list, for a B2C product, whether it's media or whether whatever you're selling online, we've had a lot of success blending in a Facebook lead gen campaign. And then also the other thing to really think about is when you integrate that into your CRM, is have that automation and that return path of the continued conversation happening right away. Because when your lead is fresh, you've got an opportunity there, typically within 24 hours, to activate that lead. Right? And so don't just let them sit there and get stale.
Yeah, that's probably one of the most common mistakes I would say that we see, is that, someone will be like, hey, I did this, this contest, I got like 200 people entered it, and then we never talked to them again. So it's like, when you even put the strategy together, you should be thinking like, what is the next step? When you capture the lead, that is step one. They're at the top of your funnel. What is the next step to push them further in the funnel? Is there something you can offer them, like a guide or a video perhaps, a webinar invite, things like that, just to give them more information and continue them moving down so they don't just sit on that list and nothing ever happens with them.
Definitely be sure. The other thing too is be sure to connect it to your CRM. If you're not connecting it to your CRM, you have 90 days and then that lead goes away. So you want to be sure you're doing one of two. Facebook has a native integration into most major CRMs, but here we go. Oh, that is up on the screen. Look at that. Okay. I was thought we were on the other scene. I can't help this. Too many fancy scenes we have going on now. You can also use this product here, which is a great one, which we use as well, called LeadsBridge. Now, LeadsBridge does a bunch of fancy things, but prior to Facebook having their native integration for things like HubSpot or Marketo or ActiveCampaign or whatever, this was the go-to. But the LeadsBridge platform provides a lot of other benefits. You can see that there's inbox lead, document leads, events leads, conversion syncing. They do a pixel enhancer, which is a really great.
And the fact that you can put LeadsBridge onto buttons without any kind of coding as well. That's also come in handy a few times with us. Say if you have a form on your site that's just like hard coded in, it's not actually like an ActiveCampaign form or something along those lines. You can actually have the button click be set up with LeadsBridge, and it sets the conversions for you, which is really, really helpful. It's easier than trying to put in like the Google event code and all that jazz.
And that's the enhanced pixel. So for sure, if you don't want to bug your development team or have to keep going back to them all the time, a great integration is to use LeadsBridge to connect all of those pieces together, and you get some really great reports and all sorts of really nice things along with it. So. Okay, what else do we have? Just want to make sure we got everything on the agenda.
I think offers. I think in just the what's working, the other kind of section, we went over a bit about like strategy. We went over a bit about the format. What is it? And of course, the question that always comes up is budget. What kind of budget should you be considering if you're looking at these lead formats?
So with LinkedIn, unfortunately, LinkedIn's always going to be a little bit more expensive. It does get you usually more qualified leads just because you're in that B2B space. But keep it in mind that LinkedIn will be a little bit more expensive than, say, Facebook. Facebook with...
Oh my God. Our sound effect has been on the entire time. Sorry about that, folks. We don't have the audio on, but that actually probably sounds totally awesome. I want to actually just jump out and check that. Go ahead.
All right, we're going to continue while Dan investigates that.
That's awesome.
Good stuff.
So with LinkedIn, as Courtney said, start with your pilot. do that $200, see how it's going for you. From there, you'll get the base, like what it's going to cost per lead. It may be drastically different between Facebook and LinkedIn, but it's kind of to be expected. If you start with $200, you would expect probably around like, sometimes it could be like $7 a lead, sometimes it could be like 15. If you are, say, going for the B2Bs, expect it to be closer to 15, expect it to be a little bit higher. You're going to get those qualified leads and you're going to make it work. But definitely for those campaigns, depending on your budget, you could spend like a couple $100 a month and it will still work out. You'll be a little bit slower with your leads, pulling them in. Obviously, the more that you put into it, the more leads that you're likely to generate because it can put your ad out more often.
Yep. Yeah, I think the thing that's important here to really focus on is understanding what your ROI is.
Yep.
Right, and so what you can sustain as a cost per lead, and that doesn't matter B2B or B2C. If you can calculate your cost per lead, if you know what your cost per acquisition is, so your lead conversion to a sale, then you can work your way back into the ROI and determine what your real cost per lead threshold is. And once you determine that, you'll be able to assign a realistic budget that will be a profitable budget because you know that you're converting your leads. If you don't know that, if you don't know your cost per lead, your conversion to a sale, so a profitable sale, and then what the net lifetime value of that sale is for you. So if you're selling a $5,000 product, say a SaaS subscription that costs $5,000 a year, or whatever that would be, $350 a month, say, then what would end up happening is you would be able to work your way back and say, I can afford $10 a lead because I know I've got a 25% conversion rate, and that I know that my leads are going to make this much money for my company. Right?
And I know that a lot of people, like perhaps your product's a little complex. You know, not all products are like cut and dry, straightforward. Trying to calculate that customer lifetime value, that metric. Worked with a lot of clients that are kind of like, we're not really sure. So if you're not sure, it's essential that you at least put an estimate together.
Yep.
Because if you don't know what cost per lead you're aiming for, then you have no idea how to like judge the success of your campaign and see where you can invest further. You know, like to Dan's point, perhaps $20 per lead sounds like a lot. Yeah, if you're selling a product with a price point of like $40, you know, but at $20 a lead for a $5,000 product, obviously awesome ROI there. So
another thing too is if you have a product that's say like $40, doing things like just growing your mailing list and like offering said coupon for like more B2C, B2C customers. If you do it that way, those leads will be a lot cheaper. Usually you can get those down to maybe like $1, $3, anything along those lines. So that may just be a different avenue that you have to go in, that maybe you just don't do the straight asset. Maybe you do the mailing list with the coupon and try and get people in that way.
And continue, yes, we got some comments that we had the sound effect left on, but it sounds pretty cool. So it wasn't that bad. I think the other thing to keep in mind is keep working your lead list, right? You keep growing that lead list. Those leads should eventually, at some point, have some value associated with them if you're qualifying the correct leads, but don't just sit there and let your leads go stale. Segment them into people that have interacted with either an email campaign or maybe they've opened right away, and then start to progressively profile them, learn a little bit more about them, and then start to create those segments, and then have, whether it's a business development rep or whether you're going to use marketing automation, to continue that process of segmenting and qualifying those leads, because you've made the investment in the leads, and those leads now, as you remarket to them, they cost you nothing. So your ROI can shift upwards if you continue that process. But once again, we have this shirt that we made a few years back, which was one of my favorites, which was
for a charity golf tournament the chamber here puts on every year.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And it was you remember Jack Nicholson? What's the name of the movie again? Oh,
what the?
No, you want the truth you can't. Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise.
You know that one. I know what you're saying. I was going to say
All the President's Men, but that's not right. Anyways, my brain's not working. I'll explain why later. But you want the leads, you can't handle the leads. So don't invest into leads. Let them go stale and let them fall off, because you might as well just put money on the table and burn it.
Yep.
Right. So let's some tips on the old lead gen ad format, and then TBD, who else is going to start adding lead gen formats into their networks, whether they be social or, we'll see.
Yeah.
We shall see. AMP also has support for a very similar type of thing. AMP pages, accelerated mobile pages as well. So lots of good fun there. All right.
Awesome.
Kind of like on schedule. That was 20 minutes.
Wow. Wow. We didn't go over. This is weird. I don't know what to do.
A few good men. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Of course, Aaron swoops in. We should take her to
Always
trivia
moving
night.
Well, Hannah tried. All the good men.
A few good men. There you go.
There are no good men.
Movie experts, clearly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whoa.
The reason I made
feminists coming out of you there.
I know. I'm a raging feminist. I hate myself.
And cue.
I'm a little tired today. For the last 3 weeks, I've been renovating and getting ready to sell a house, and I have like 0 brain cells left.
Head to buydancehouse.com.
Yeah.
Yes.
Buydancehouse.com.
It's not a real site. Don't go.
No. It could be.
It could be, though. Your weekend project, because you're not busy enough.
Yeah. Well, I've gotten to the point where I basically have no energy left at all. And the open house is tomorrow, and there's still a few things to do, but it's weird looking at my house and it looking the way it looks, because with 3 kids, it never looks this way.
You're like, this looks good.
That's what I don't know. This is why I don't have the nice things, but all right.
So segueing right into what's new with us this week. So as per usual, lots and lots of news coming out this week. From the Facebook side of things, Facebook had their conference and their annual conference, and they revealed a lot of new features that they're rolling out. Some were very exciting, some were kind of funny to us. I don't know. Facebook's kind of continued. We mentioned a few months ago or so, I think in February, that they rolled out a job posting feature. So we were kind of noting at how they're kind of taking little pieces of the pie from some of their other competitors. So from LinkedIn, they have job postings now. Now they also have a dating functionality.
Well, that's a little creepy.
It's a little odd. We were kind of discussing from a marketing perspective, like what this would mean for us, because the younger people in the office were kind of already noting that like social media is kind of already used as part of the dating process. Yeah. It's like you're not going on a first date with someone and not stalking them on social media. Like, let's be real. So I think it's interesting to see what this actual dating feature is going to be, like how it's going to be used, and how it could possibly be leveraged for like additional targeting and things like that. But yeah, so it's kind of let's see what happens as a lot of marketers start to dive in and test with it. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. We'll see what happens.
Well, yeah, and I think it's interesting to see Facebook kind of work their way across everybody else's, gobbling up everybody else's spaces there, which they definitely have the power to do due to the size of the network. But it looks like some investors got a little skittish on Tinder, and you could see why. In a sense, Tinder and other dating apps of a similar ilk really provide one function. I think the thing that's gonna, from a user's perspective, is, do you want people on your Facebook? It says there isn't an indication that you would be in the dating app, but again, I don't know that some people would want that information to be out there so your grandmother could see if you were on, or something awkward like the connections that you have with your family.
For sure, yeah. It brings to I just want to explore it and see what the actual interface looks like and what the actual functionality is now that they've kind of slowly started releasing it to people. But yeah, definitely a play at Tinder, which is interesting since there is kind of like a Tinder Facebook integration already. So we'll see what comes of it and if people accept it or if they just continue with more of the app method. But yeah. So we got some previews here. I mean, there's interesting implications for audience targeting if you're selling a certain type of a product that could work to a singles market, and also obviously if they're doing that, they're going to segment based on different age groups, because one of the most actively growing areas of online dating are 55 plus. Yeah. Right. Which is actually mirroring the fastest growing audience on Facebook as well. Yeah. So it kind of makes sense a bit in that way. So it's interesting for sure. But yeah, we'll see what happens with it. What face date? They're all just being cheeky with it.
There you go. I think the other thing that's pretty important is Facebook Messenger embargo has been lifted.
Yeah.
And that was in heavy response to some of the stuff that was happening at the U.S. Congress.
If you were using like a chatbot at all, or if you through Messenger marketing, if you're on any, pages on their Messenger lists and things like that and receive messages from them, that can be done through like third-party chatbot tools. And yeah, upon all the drama being unleashed on them this year, they kind of clamped that down. So people who did already have an existing chatbot could still have it and use it, but no one knew. So it's been about, I don't know, a month or so, a little while, maybe a little longer, and they've lifted it so people can now access it and they can start leveraging it. We use a tool we enjoy called ManyChat. It's a chatbot tool we've used to great success before. Also just another lead generation method, just another way to communicate with your audience, especially like your VIP social media audience, people who are often visiting your page, and just making sure that they're seeing the announcements, because often only about 30% of what you post on Facebook is seen by your audience, like people who follow your page, is about the ratio. But if you actually messaged them because they're on your Messenger list, that gets straight into their notifications. They have a direct link to it. So it's really kind of, I almost say it's the equivalent of like stories kind of in the visibility, and that just gets a bit more visibility than a regular post. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, there are so many different ways that people tend to communicate. For example, we use abandoned cart platform called Carts Guru, and it has Messenger, basically SMS, but SMS is kind of an anomaly now because it's not short at all. But over the past, say, 18 to 24 months, the success rate has been through the messaging apps rather than the email. Email can get clustered, and it'll get clustered into a promotions tab if you're using Gmail for the web, or it'll go into spam, or people will see it and they just have 500 emails that they got that day. So you get kind of shoved aside. It's just another touch point that, used intelligently, you can really connect with somebody directly and immediately. So the one great example that I really love with Facebook Messenger is online shopping. When your order is shipped, if you're using Shopify, we'll track down the name of the add-on that'll do it. But as soon as the order ships from the warehouse, you get a Facebook Messenger, and then it goes over to UPS or FedEx, and then at every stop along the way, it tells you that it has arrived and that it will be en route, and then you know when your package is going to be delivered. So that's a really great use of Messenger, a messaging app.
For sure, yeah. And it is like, it's not like a brand new thing. Like Dan said, messenger marketing specifically has been used for like coming up on like a 2-year mark at least. But yeah, I've seen some stats go around like 10% higher open rates on Messenger than on email. When we implemented it for a client earlier this year, they gained about a 500 lead list within about 3 months or so, and that's just solely organic, just leveraging their social media traffic. So
yeah. Another big thing that happened yesterday, if you were checking your email, and if you're a Twitter user, Twitter was storing all passwords for Twitter users in an unencrypted. Now they're saying it's an internal. On an internal server only, but basically they had what amounts to a gigantic text file with everybody's passwords in it. It was in a database, but that's pretty much the equivalent. It's like we just put it in Evernote and shared it, or Apple Notes, and shared it with everybody. So you might have gotten a bunch of email messages, I know I did yesterday, advising everybody to change your passwords, but not only change them on Twitter. They're saying change them everywhere, as people commonly will reuse their passwords. They stated in the email as well that they don't believe it has been compromised, which means it'll be compromised within minutes of them saying it, because that's how the world works. But one of the things are like, one, for your personal and your business Twitter accounts, go in and change those passwords. And the easy way to mitigate this is to enable two-factor authentication. Even if someone had your password, it wouldn't matter, because they can't. If you have your hardware connected to your two-factor authentication, you'll get that 6-digit code every time, and they can't get in. So you should still change your password, but if you enable two-factor authentication, then you're not going to have that issue at all.
Yeah, Andrew's joined us, just saying he's a little surprised. A company of that size, like a household name, is storing it that way. And I think that's kind of that's why it's newsworthy, right? It's like, what?
Yeah, they didn't hash it, they didn't encrypt, they didn't do anything. It was just sitting there in plain text, which is, for anybody in the world of software, that's kind of, I don't know, that's the first thing you learn never to do.
He's giving us the inside scoop. Andrew, they need your help over at Twitter.
Yeah, Andrew. WhatsApp is taken care of. You got it. They're good. So apparently, though, according to the email, it was on an internal server. It was some sort of a backup, which who knows, right? But certainly at least they came forward and they admitted they did not use their best practices of anybody, especially for a company that size with that much information.
He says no thanks.
Come on.
That's on you, Twitter.
Come on, they need you over there. But yeah, so definitely change your Twitter passwords. But you know what? The way to really do it for all of your social media accounts is, trust me, enable two-factor authentication. It's really one of the only ways that you can be assured that well, it's not a guarantee, obviously, but it's certainly a really good practice to use. I try to use two-factor authentication on literally everything I have. And you can use Google Authenticator. You can use the text message feature. There's lots of different apps out there that can help you store your two-factor authentication.
For sure. Hannah's all on the Trump news, or she's all on the Twitter news today.
Trump made Twitter. Are you kidding? All right, so what do we got up next?
Yeah, so aside from Facebook, obviously they made a lot of noise this week, but Instagram, while still, Facebook has also announced 5 new releases and given us a preview. So yeah, they're kind of, we noted that when we reviewed the list of these kind of 5 features they're talking about, they're very similar to what Snapchat is kind of doing and releasing right now. For example, there's a new Explore feed coming out to Instagram. So right now when you go to your Explore feed, like there's a search option, but it kind of dictates what you see when you go there. But now they're adding a bit more functionality so that when you go to the Explore page, you can actually pick like categories and different things like that so that you can help curate the feed a little better.
Yeah, I'd like to file these 5 changes that make Instagram Snapchat. Because like literally these are Snapchat. Pretty much all of them are actually Snapchat features. So up on the screen there, we've got the new Beta Explore page.
Yep, so that's a sneak peek, and you can see the categories are at the top there with animals, photography, architecture, and then also obviously related hashtags. Yep. So from a marketing perspective, it's also a great little research tool. Explore was, and the native channels are always great for research, but just makes Explore even more valuable so that, if you're looking at a discussion topic, perhaps mental health, one of your clients are speaking about that topic, you can see suggested related hashtags, related content. It's really good for content research for sure. Yeah.
Okay, great. The other thing in here...
Yeah, it's group video chat. Yeah. So another familiar feature that we've seen rolled out. It's coming to Instagram. So just another way to be interactive, another way where they want to keep people on Instagram using it as much as possible for obvious reasons. So yeah, they're like, don't use any of the other video features. Don't be FaceTiming people. Don't be using like Snapchat. Just use Instagram. So it's definitely like when you get to the size that these platforms are at, you're definitely doing this, right? Taking bites of one another's pie.
The Evan Spiegelman and Mark Zuckerberg feud is pretty infamous, though. They really don't like each other at all. So this is pretty much a Silicon Valley cage match. This is what it looks like when nerds fight. Basically, no, one of the things actually, the video calling feature, which really reminisces of Silicon Valley, if you watch that TV show, because that was actually one of the products that they did have. But this is one of Snapchat's premium features that has been growing really astronomically, according to their last earnings call, and this is one of the things that they're focusing on. So again, the group video chats. Snapchat can do up to 16, I believe. I don't use Snap enough. I should probably use it more. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the battle goes because it just kind of continues
Get
forever.
snapping. You're going to have to get on there so you can stalk your kids when they start using Snapchat and stuff like that. Like my mom does to me on Instagram and Facebook. Not stalking me. She just wants to see what I'm posting.
Only until you learn how to use a tablet.
Yeah, whatever.
All right, so the next big piece of news this week was Microsoft launching the MSAN, the Microsoft Audience Network.
Yeah, very exciting. And I don't know, I guess perhaps I just out of the loop. I was just a little surprised this wasn't something they already had. I don't know what you guys feel, or how you guys feel about that.
Well, it's not that they don't have remarketing and retargeting. So this audience group, so it's one of these things, I think, that people for some reason don't think that Microsoft has reach. But they have this incredible reach, and being in the Microsoft the Audience Network, it's interesting because Skype, LinkedIn, every Windows 10 desktop, which also now includes Xbox One because they're integrated. What else is in here? There it is. Oh, Office 365. Yeah. Office 365 subscribers and Outlook.com users, which are also Hotmail users, still tons of them. This audience network will allow you to get into those touch points using AI and machine learning.
Yeah, it's kind of funny when people giggle a little when we talk about Bing advertising, because they're like, do people use Bing? And it's like, there's over like 500,000 advertisers on Bing, and it is still one of the largest search engines in the world. So it's we've used it quite successfully for campaigning before. So it's kind of it's not something to be disregarded. Definitely, just because it's not Google. But
Also keeping in mind that a lot of corporate users will use Windows desktops and they will use Windows services.
Yeah, it's usually a different audience to Google. Like you won't usually find like the millennials in Bing unless they were using it at work. But you will find say over 30s or people that are there for work. You'll find that kind of audience there. So it's easier to sometimes even target down that way as well.
Skype advertising is always an interesting option. Lots and lots and lots of users there. And obviously it'll be interesting to see how they bring LinkedIn, because LinkedIn obviously has its own ad platform, but it'll be interesting to see how that's gonna work out in terms of how you get entry into that. I think what's gonna happen with Microsoft is the further that they get through this development of their networks, you're going to start to see a lot more self-serve. In this, a lot of times, for example, exclusively the way to buy display advertising on any Microsoft or Bing network is exclusively through AOL, America Online, and it's a kind of more traditional purchase path. So you fill out your IO, your flight schedule, you prepay, and off it goes. I would imagine that at a certain point, Microsoft's going to turn around and turn it into what the Google Display Network would be. So
here's our little news update on here. She says the power is out across KW right now.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to tune in and your power went out, or you can always watch it later.
Yeah, you can watch it on use LTE. Power's out everywhere. All right, so moving right along.
Yeah, last but not least, just one other thing we want to mention in the What's New. There was lots of new things this week, but it was just Google My Business. So they opened up the API for Google My Business. If you're not familiar with what Google My Business is, you've definitely seen it before. If you've ever Googled anything and you see that side panel that comes up with those lovely details like store hours and links and things like that, that's generated by Google My Business. It's a very important search tool for businesses, whether you're brick and mortar or whether you are an e-commerce store. It's important just for search especially. It's kind of the newer thing about the API is like, why should you care? It's made it much easier to manage multiple locations from one account. So Google My Business is kind of the equivalent of digitally verifying your company, and being a verified business on Google is actually, they noted at the beginning of this year, is it's kind of even more heavily weighted in the algorithm as well now than it used to be. So to be verified, Google will actually either call you or send you a postcard with a verification PIN. So they want to verify that yes, you are a business, yes, this is your address, and that they are not directing people to some, random place that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And it just adds that level of credibility.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that hand in hand with the API is the new login interface for Google My Business. This has always been an issue, and it was I always thought it was a little insane when you're dealing with a chain, is you would have to verify individually. Every location would have its own login panel. Now you've got a master that you can add unlimited locations, which makes sense, because how does Starbucks do it, for example? when they have 30,000 locations.
Yeah, or any franchise. We've actually ran into it in the past when we've worked with some insurance clients, that when they are trying to set up Google My Business, which is so vital to local people searching you, trying to find you, get directions to your place, like all these things really matter and are associated with it. And if people are trying to search you and they're getting headquarters, comes up instead of you, it's really shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah. The interesting thing for Google My Business for local businesses is it really is the 21st century equivalent of the Yellow Pages. People search they search on their phone, and then there's the immediacy of being able to dial your business, to be able to get a coupon, to be able to perform all sorts of different functions, check your store hours, take a 3D virtual tour. They have the 360 videos if you've got a restaurant. Anything along those lines. And according to Google, their mobile search for Google My Business is growing, I think, 50% year over year, which is faster than any other area in their mobile stable. So
and you can also make posts as well.
Yep.
Yeah, which something that we have been experimenting with quite a bit over the last 6 months or so. And Google My Business also sends you a lovely little report at the end of each month automatically that tells you, what is your traffic in terms of like how many people searched directions to your location. How many times did people search you or look at your posts or your images as well, to Dan's point. When you add physical images, it's all about the credibility. Reviews are also part of it and a very important part of it. Just imagine that it adds that credibility, that you are a real business, you are established, you're a real place. You're not some like person working out of a basement somewhere. Maybe you are, I don't know, but it's all about credibility really from an SEO perspective and really just from a reputation perspective as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think one of the things that we talk about a lot is the first thing that you should be doing with a local business. And there's no magic at all. There's no SEO, you don't have to have any special knowledge. It's a really friendly interface. And it has a ton of features. And it's something that literally anybody can do. You can have 0% technical knowledge and it will walk you through. The other thing that's interesting with Google My Business, if you don't have a professional website, there is a page builder in the Google My Business panel that will allow you to create using a template. So at the very minimum, you would have kind of a one-page landing page for your business. And again, it's very simple to set up. It can look good. It's also an accelerated an AMP page, so it delivers very, very quickly. And so, if you're a contractor and you're not, technically minded and you don't want to invest in that, you can at the very least have your presence on Google My Business with your one-page landing page, and you'll generate business from it.
For sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think that's the wrap. I also just got another email from Twitter, so let's have a look here.
Live Twitter announcement.
Twitter announcement. Literally just an update on your account security.
Hot off the keyboard coming in.
Okay, here we go. When you set a password for your Twitter account, we use technology that masks it so no one at the company can see it, except we didn't. We recently identified a bug that stored passwords unmasked in an internal log. We have fixed the bug, and our investigation shows no indication of breach or misuse by anyone. Out of an abundance of caution, we ask that you consider changing your password on all services where you've used this password. You can change your Twitter password anytime by going to the password setting page. About the bug. We have masked passwords through a process called hashing. Huh? Andrew called it. Using a function known as bcrypt, which replaces the actual password with a random set of numbers and letters that are stored in Twitter's system. This allows our systems to validate your account credentials without revealing your password. This is an industry standard, which again, we did not do. Just joking. Due to a bug, passwords were written to an internal log before completing the hashing process. Stop writing it to the logs, developers, which is actually a common thing in a debug state when you're debugging. We found this error ourselves, removed the passwords, and are implementing plans to prevent this bug from happening again. So there you go. We're very sorry this happened. We recognize and appreciate the trust you place in us and are committed to earning that trust every day. At the very least, okay, there we go.
Yeah.
At the very least, they came out and proactively did it. Unlike Equifax, who waited 1.5 years before telling, 120 million Americans.
Yeah, we'll give them credit for, in terms of crisis management, I would give them a good grade. You know, they're not shying away from it. They're being upfront. They have already, theoretically, they've already solved the bug or the issue. And they're really doing, you know, taking the proper steps from a marketing communication perspective and really from a PR perspective is own the story. You know, like if something like this happens, you know, shit happens from time to time. You would hope that it wouldn't, but and that's, you know, that is what crisis management is all about.
So we just had a crisis at our King Street office. Apparently the awning was ripped off by, we were having these vicious winds. Yeah.
Our staff is now trapped inside the office because there's an awning blocking the door.
Yeah. There's no power in there. Yeah. Apparently one of the guys from the other office that is in the building tried to grab it and almost flew away. I don't know if you can see that, but it's looking pretty nasty. That's a front door.
I don't know.
That's the awning that usually sits above the front door. So yeah, we had this ripping, just crazy. I went downstairs about an hour ago, and it was like literally everything was horizontal. Like the rain was coming down horizontally. So there we go. Excellent. I'm sure my house that I'm trying to sell probably has a hole in its roof now, which is awesome. Anyways, stuff. That's it for Live at the Hive today. 47 minutes, pretty good. So have a great weekend, everyone, and we will see you next week.
All right. Bye, guys. Have a